All right, just finished watching the first half of the Chiefs game. I've got a free pick player prop for you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, I already posted about it. It's Will Dissly, who is the Seattle Seahawks tight end. We're taking the over. It's at 45.5 receiving yards as I record this video. Might be trickling up. I think more and more people are on this. I've seen several other sports betting Instagram accounts post about it. I am aware of Will Dissly, the Seahawks team. I'm familiar with a lot of teams, of course, but Seahawks are a team that I'm especially familiar with as a Seahawks fan. I'll get into that breakdown in a second. Just wanted to talk about what I saw with the Chiefs end of half again. So, in my opinion, I forget which instances it was in the AFC Championship game, but in my opinion, and it might just be a fact. I mean, I think we might all agree with it, but Andy Reid and his clock management in that game could have cost the Chiefs the win. Obviously, one offsides penalty did cost them the win, but it's kind of like he's a great coach. He's a great offensive coach, but like game management, time management, just coaching your players, like little things, attention to detail, I feel like it's been something that's plagued him his entire career as a coach, and it's frustrating to watch the Chiefs that have more potential than almost any team I've ever seen. Of course, they suck on defense, but their talent on offense is just so amazing. To see them miss opportunities because of coaching is frustrating. This is the second week in a row now that they've had one timeout. They throw a long pass to get into field goal range. With about 30 seconds left, you should immediately call timeout. You call timeout, you pause the clock with 30 seconds, just let Mahomes air it out, pass to the sidelines, whatever your strategy is to stop the clock. But instead, they rush, no huddle, rush up there, and then they have time for one play when really they could have taken 2 or 3 shots. And I know you have one timeout, you want to save it, but it's just, you can stretch that 30 seconds a lot further if you immediately call timeout as soon as your player's tackled in field goal range, and then run some plays without any timeouts. Just make sure you throw to the end zone or throw to the sidelines. And Mahomes, and here's what I really want to get to too, that's frustrating to see. It is what it is. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. That's Andy Reid. That's how he coaches. You have to take the good with the bad with him. But what is frustrating to me is this is like the second or third time I've seen this. I've been watching the games with the commentators on this year. A lot of times I'll mute the TVs when I watch, but I've been watching a lot of games listening to the commentators, and they just don't get it. They don't understand why coaches are going for 2 when they're down 13 points or they're down 15 points going to an extra point. And they don't get it when just little things at the end of the second half and into the game, clock management stuff, they're not comprehending it. So Mahomes was pissed off at his coaches, as he should be, because he's probably thinking the same thing that I just explained. Like, hey guys, we need to use our last freaking timeout to pause the clock so that we can take a couple shots instead of just one hurried no huddle play. And the commentators thought he was mad because he wanted to run a play with 6 seconds. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is smart enough to know that you can't run a play with 6 seconds. At that point, you got to kick the field goal. What Mahomes was pissed off about is exactly what I've explained throughout the first 3 minutes of this video. Hey, we should have used our timeout, had 30 seconds, and targeted those sideline passes or just thrown into the end zone a few times before we kicked the field goal. They did it the week before, they did it now, but it's crazy to me to watch commentators not understand this stuff. And also, we'll take a moment to go into the explanation of why coaches are going for 2 in super weird situations. The first time I saw it, I was really taken back, but I knew that these coaches, like, a lot of the coaches are idiots, but they're not going to go for 2 for no reason, right? So what it was, what are the situations? I'll give you one example of the situation, and the other ones are similar, you can imagine. So imagine you're down 21 points, right? You're down 21 points, you score a touchdown, you'd kick the field goal, go down 14, right? Traditionally. Well, what these coaches are doing is they're going for 2. Now, you're probably like, why the hell are you going for 2? Why do you want to be down 13 instead of down 14 when if it goes wrong, you could be down 15? Well, what it is a coach is saying, okay, if we do catch up and we do score the 3 touchdowns, on that final touchdown, I want to go for 2 to win the game outright. So they know that if they score 2 touchdowns and they make it a 7-point game, and then they score what would be a tying touchdown, they'll go for 2, similar to what UNC did against Clemson, right? They went for 2, they lost the game, but they went for the win, do or die 2-point conversion. Now, if as a coach you know you're going to do a do or die 2-point conversion if you do tie the game, which you should know ahead of time, you should have a game plan or a general feel. You shouldn't be making decisions just in the moment. That's a very stupid way to make decisions. If you know ahead of time you're going to go for 2 and go for the do or die 2-point conversion, it's actually much better to go for 2 on that touchdown that brings you within 2 touchdowns. Because what happens is if you go for 2 then and you get it, then okay, cool, we'll kick 2 extra points on the next 2 touchdowns and we'll go up by 1. But if you miss it, now you have an opportunity to go for 2 again, and it'll become a game tying situation. So in other words, you are giving yourself you're giving yourself like a couple opportunities at the 2-point conversion. If you miss the first one, you still have a chance to tie the game. If you make the first one, you'll go up by 1 and you'll go for the win. Whereas if you hold off and you just kick an extra point, and then go for 2, then if you miss it, you don't have any chance at redemption. So it actually makes sense if the coach knows he's going to go for 2 and gamble and do or die in that final game tying, what would have been a game tying if they just kicked the extra point. It's advantageous to go for 2 earlier on, which is what the Ravens did last week when they played the Chiefs. They were going for 2 in really weird situations, and the commentator couldn't explain it. In the Northwestern-Wisconsin game yesterday, the commentators couldn't explain it. And it does bother me, honestly, guys, because I put a ton of hours into this, but I don't put anywhere near the amount of hours I'd put in if I was a color commentator, or the amount of hours I want to put in one day when I start doing this full time. Like, I have a full-time job, right, in the military, in the Army, and I still put in a full workload into my sports bets. Like, I'm still working long hours every single day. 24, like every single day, not 24/7, but 7 days a week. And I'm thinking, like, if this was my job to call games, and they spend hours, like they have conference calls with the coaches and things like that to prepare for this, like, how do they not understand the strategy and going for 2 early on? How did that commentator in there calling the Chiefs game, I don't know what his name was, I don't know which commentator it was, but how did he not understand that Patrick Mahomes was pissed off at his coaches because they should have used their timeout as soon as that pass was completed and that player was tackled? Like, it's just common sense. It's frustrating to watch, but look, the stupidity in mainstream media, whether it's color commentators that are calling games or experts on these ESPN and FS1 shows, and just the stupidity in coaching and in the general public, that's what creates opportunities for us, guys. And I don't think that it's people's stupidity that's causing the opportunity for this player prop that I'm about to talk about, that I mentioned earlier in the video. But I wanted to segue into the player prop. So I think what really creates value here is just Vegas not putting a lot of effort into their player props. There are limits on it, so you're not going to be able to hammer this one for $10,000 or anything crazy like that. But I know 99.9% of y'all, if not 100% of y'all, are just betting, a couple $100 a pick. Will Dissly is one of Russell Wilson's favorite targets. He's been one of his favorite targets since, let me make sure my cat is back here. Where is she? She's hiding over there. Make sure my cat doesn't run off. She's an indoor cat, but she gets to come outside when I make videos. Otherwise, you'll hear her meowing for like the whole video, which I know has happened a few times. But Dissly has been one of Russell Wilson's favorite targets since Jimmy Graham left. It was him and a tight end named Nick Vannett. Well, Vannett just got traded, so now Dissly is going to basically consume all of the tight end targets, or at least that's what I'm expecting. And even if he isn't, he's been targeted so much and he has so many receiving yards these first 3 games, 2 of 3 he had performed really well in, that I think this over 45 is a good spot here. The Cardinals are pushing the pace. They're throwing the ball at record-breaking numbers. Like their amount of passes they have compared to run is just ridiculous. And they've played 3 really good pass defenses, so it hasn't necessarily worked. It has worked, but not in the result they would like. They haven't won a game yet. They're 0-2-1. I think against Seattle's weak pass defense, they're going to have a lot of success. The Cardinals are going to move the ball well, and they're going to score touchdowns. Although the red zone offense has not been very well, been ranked lowest among the lowest in the league. I think the Cardinals are going to force the Seahawks to move the ball and pass as well. I think Russell Wilson throws for over 300 yards in this game, and I think it's going to look similar to the Seahawks' last 2 games. And I think without Vinette there, Disley is just going to consume maybe 1 or 2 extra targets, and I think that's all it's going to take. I think if he gets targeted 5 or 6 times, it'll be enough for him to go over the 45.5 receiving yards. So that's your free player prop pick for this afternoon's game. It's a 3:15, 3:25, one of those games. So it's an afternoon game. As I look ahead to primetime matchups, I'm probably going to have a premium play on a side in the Monday Night Football game, and then this Dallas versus New Orleans in New Orleans Sunday Night Football game is probably the best primetime game we've seen all season. But a lot of times what we're doing as sports bettors is we're finding mistakes in the marketplace, and the lines makers aren't going to make a mistake in a primetime game like this that they know a lot of money is going down on. So I don't really see an angle that I would want to take. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think if Breeze was there, I would be all over the Saints. And this was a game that I had circled before the season even started, because Dallas basically was handed a 3-0 start. Before the season, you knew they were going to win those first 3 games because they were against such crappy opponents. They did beat the Giants, and Giants were starting Eli back then, so it was a horrible Giants team. And then they beat the Dolphins and the Redskins. So they have not played anybody. 2 of those teams have switched their quarterbacks that they started against Dallas. So this 3-0 for the Cowboys I really look at as 0-0. But the thing is, there is also some overvalue with the Saints and Bridgewater, because Bridgewater was it's not like he got lucky personally, but the way his team performed really picked up any slack if he was going to play poorly that game. He didn't have pressure on him at all that entire game, and he got a defensive touchdown and a return touchdown, so he got a special team and a defensive touchdown, so 14 points. He was playing with the lead against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks defense I do not have rated as highly as the Cowboys defense, so I think the Cowboys are going to give Bridgewater a lot more pressure, a much tougher test. And then I also think the Cowboys' new offensive coordinator is he's really going to take this opportunity to play on the big stage of prime time to kind of show everybody what he's got. So look for the Cowboys playbook to have, to be at 110% this game. I think the Cowboys play calling is going to be phenomenal this game, a huge upgrade over what we've seen out of Dallas over the last couple of years. So I'm excited about the primetime games, but that's just a player prop I wanted to share with you guys. Just wanted to hop on here and talk about some things I was seeing on the TV. Hopefully I've made a dent in halftime. Hopefully by the time you're at this point in the video, halftime's over and we can enjoy these second halves. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for supporting my channel. I appreciate you all so much, and best of luck with all of your sports bets this weekend.